that's it. There is something I do want to ask. Okay, with TRC, and I didn't want to ask it on the podcast. I'm going to ask it. This is potentially the after podcast. I've really gotten into F1 racing. I don't know if anyone else is into F1 racing.
Like virtual or real?
The real F1 racing.
Okay,
right?
Because now everything is virtual world and real world.
No, like the actual in the cars, right?
Yeah.
Racing. Can TRC help us get a track here to find out if we can get F1 racing to Ohio? How do we get F1 racing? Jobs, Ohio. How do we get one here? Because Miami's getting one this year and Austin has one. How do we get one here with all, us being awesome with automobiles? The pinnacle.
Well, we got Mid-Ohio. You can go watch racing at Mid-Ohio. The motorcycle racing. I want the pinnacle of racing.
Yeah, you need dynamic handling.
You need to turn more than just left.
Yeah.
So in my misspent youth, that's what I spent time doing, and I actually worked at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for a couple of years.
Oh yeah.
Running sales and marketing, Austin, Texas has had one for a while. Miami's getting one. Las Vegas will be getting one in the future. There would be some upgrades needed to the facilities existing in Ohio. TRC is not in the running, of course, but that's a pretty compelling sport, and plenty of drama and action going on right now.
Yep.
And I love the idea that there would be one, perhaps on the waterfront up in the Cleveland area. There used to be an IndyCar race that ran up there, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, down the shoreway. That would be fun.
Yeah, what I think something near Columbus would be needed with all these techie jobs coming, and that's like, you can imagine people sitting at the computers all day. They want to spend this energy and like movement somewhere, and that's what it brings you. Like a little bit of adrenaline and release of that adrenaline.
Right. So next research, economic impact of a would-be F1 race.
I am for it. You sign me up.
Well,
so we just need to get a good racer behind us. I mean, we need to get like a Lewis Hamilton to come and give us a thumbs up here in Ohio. I think that'd be great.
Well,
right. Let me call him.
We could get LeBron James to create a Formula One race team here in Cleveland. That's what
maybe LeBron knows an F1 racer and he could bring it over. Because I would take a Lewis Hamilton or my main man, Daniel Ricciardo, because I think Daniel Ricciardo, being so outgoing, would love the Midwestern atmosphere. Being an Aussie.
I think actually maybe you should put the pitch together, but yeah, it's a great idea.
The economic impact will come from visitors.
Right.
Visitors spend on staying in restaurants, eating and staying in hotels and buying different tchotchkes, and we can enumerate all of that.
Well, so that's the single event, right? You're looking around the impact of a single.
But if you put that single event every month, that's creating year-round impact.
Well, because there's F1 and then F2 is there also, and then because it's not just one day. The race starts. It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because you have the testing, the qualifying, and then the race. So you have. It's a whole weekend, and then it's all VIPs that come. I mean, I looked into go to Montreal, which I thought was the closest one to us, Montreal, to go to it. The VIP packages are like tens of thousands of dollars to get into the paddock, to do all the days of racing. It's so expensive.
They all half of them flying with private jets. Half of that is economic impact on Ohio. And then in between, you put events like huge concerts where Cher come with elephants or, something else.
I would go to that too. I would go to that.
Right. Well, what about all of the, you talked about construction jobs with the TRC building and continuous expansion, to get the roads and infrastructure in shape for that kind of race and hosting that kind of event, right? So you'd have to sort of look at the prep into that.
We'd have to eliminate potholes in
Well,
Cleveland.
guys, you need to be in a business mind. Like you need to sell idea, then you need to find investor, then you need to calculate when the return on investment starts coming, and then happy to calculate prospective economic impact to help you to sell this.
Right. Well, I'm with Molly. The thing is, I just realized when she was talking about like the infrastructure to get us ready is the huge benefit if we have a street race. Cleveland F1 is no potholes. Like there can't be any potholes. So we would eliminate the potholes in Cleveland.
And that's a year-round effort.
I don't think there are potholes in Cleveland. I don't think we ever want to say that there's potholes anywhere in the state of Ohio. All the streets are pristine in Ohio.
3 men with the shovel putting like hot asphalt in them right now.
Do you not call them potholes because they're deeper than that, or?
No, we don't have potholes.
Oh, we don't have those.
You're not supposed to say that. No, but so
my suspension would tell you otherwise.
So F1 is sort of aspirational kind of thing. But Jonathan, what are sort of the other transportation activities happening around the states? We've got TRC, but there's all of this industry and effort related to transportation across Ohio. And what is some of the latest happening around sort of the entire sector?
I mean, really, we're doing a lot of activity. I mean, so I would say initially when we talked about connected and autonomous and electrified mobility, we were always talking about the automotive space. And now we're seeing so much of that has branched over into my partners in the air. And so like Brett had talked about our partners at Drive Ohio and Fly Ohio, and they always say, Fly Ohio, Drive Ohio. So you have to be on the ground before you get in the air. You have to taxi. And so, and actually to refer back to Brett earlier, he had mentioned the flying taxis, which I appreciate him saying flying taxis versus flying cars, because that also scares me. But we're seeing so much of that testing environment explode here. That's probably the wrong terminology, but seeing so much of that activity begin to flourish here in our state because of expand, because now you have, this roadway that's, right outside of the TRC. So now they're doing drone testing on that. And so there's a whole lot of space here in Ohio. They're doing, vertical takeoff and landing testing in Springfield, Ohio. Because they have a dedicated airspace where they're doing that type of activity. So again, we have on the ground research that's being done for mobility. We have in the air research that's being done around mobility and delivery. So Ohio is just flourishing with opportunities for, companies to come here and do that type of work. And we're seeing, we're seeing gravity, if you will, of companies being attracted here because there's so much opportunity. And to Kristen's point earlier, you can do it at a lower cost.
And in our world, it's called positive externalities of agglomeration and clustering. So you definitely benefit from.
It's exactly what I called it.
I liked it when she said it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
no, that's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah, and it's a collocation and cross section of similar industries and collocation of suppliers and customers. And think about other benefits Ohio have. I also visited another research facility we have down in Canton that said, well, every bearing in either the car or spaceship are made in Ohio. So at least they have one that is made in Ohio. And we have also big development in electric batteries that is coming. So we have a lot of adjacent innovations that are deployed and growing in Ohio. And I think that agglomeration is really exciting.
I think just to tag on to what's already been said, if you, I'm going to steal a phrase from John Horak at a different university, Irina, I hope it's okay, but a researcher at Ohio State. And John says, if you constellate the assets in the state of Ohio, it can't be beat because of all of whether we're talking about the space assets in NASA, Glenn and Plumbrook and others, and then efforts like Jonathan is talking about with Drive Ohio and Fly Ohio, companies like TRC, constellate all of those. The Springfield area, Wright-Patterson Air Force, all of the partnership work that's going on there, both with the federal government and industry, the defense industry. Ohio's unique in the value proposition. So,
economic impact of NASA Glenn is coming.
We look forward to that one.
Right.
Do we get to do that one from space though?
Well, if you have a couple of million extra to pay to Elon Musk, why not? Or to Bezos.
I was gonna say I'll call Bezos.
Right.
Let me just call Bezos because my Amazon normally gets to me, so I do trust that one.
I'm gonna sign on as a host of the podcast. Jonathan, you coming too?
I'm a wheels guy, so I like to keep my wheels on the ground, but I'm happy to help any way I can.
Oh, so going back to what Jonathan said about flying cars, according to a 1980s movie, Back to the Future, we should already have flying cars. Where are we at with that? Are you testing flying cars?
So we currently are not testing flying cars.
Okay.
Oh, so
There are cars that are taking test flights and have started to move through the what's the word I'm looking for? It's a European term because this is going on over there. The confirmation process, I guess, with the European flight agencies. So.
well,
Do
but
they need
that's
back
so,
mirrors like those cars?
What's that?
Do they need back mirrors like that you see your back? Like, is this really like, how
I
does
think
it
it's a
work?
whole different
Like,
level of
like a
lines
camera
and
in completely
grids.
autonomous, or you really like turn your head like and see who is
It-
right, left, as in a Fifth
it-
Element movie, like
Yeah.
It's really that in what we're talking about, it's really a flying car. Urban air mobility is what we've touched on, throughout our conversation, and that's a different gig that I think makes Jonathan more comfortable. So
flying taxi.
We won't need roads.
But so Kristen and
Who
Randy,
needs
you guys
roads?
mentioned referenced two movies, but in all reality and practicality, right? I'll go back to actually Walt Disney, right, and Epcot, which was supposed to be bringing ideas of the future to the public, right? And Walt Disney World used to have these sort of homes of the future, right? Or these kind of featured future cities or places, right? And some of them were, kitchens and how your home would function, but they had flying cars was certainly one of them. And you can go on YouTube and look up some of the old videos. What I find really interesting about that, though, is the seeds of creativity and thought around innovation and how, what it could look like, right? The difference between this sort of movie version and what happened at Epcot was they put people in there and they played it out in real life. It wasn't a green screen or done on, computer graphics, but sort of one prototype of what something might look like. And I think that's really kind of, fascinating to talk about what they're testing out around Dayton and Wright-Patterson out in Springfield, and, maybe these air taxis and the actual on the ground testing of these applications of, maybe kind of this Walt Disney World, what our future might look like happening in Ohio.
there's definitely an element of the Jetsons coming.
Right. And, I think since those Walt Disney clips, I have been waiting for my flying car, but I don't necessarily want to take that operator's license test.
I do want to point out
That's what I
something
was going to
about
say.
futuristic, like the Jetsons and stuff like that. Everyone was like, flying cars. We're going to have flying cars, right? To take something that they already know, cars, and do something new with it. nobody did anticipated the cell phone, right? Like nobody thought that we would be having a phone on us at all times. Even in the Jetsons, I'm pretty sure they had a landline. Like they had a wall mounted phone. They didn't just like bring it around with them. So it's like like the idea of having a camera on you at all times and a calculator and the smartphone, like nobody.
But that's the distinction, is that it wasn't centered around the phone. It was centered around all the other things that the device could be used for in addition to being a phone. That's why you carry it with you also. Right? It's sort of like the Swiss Army knives of devices. It's sort of the everything in your pocket. And so flying things, whether they be drones for delivery and, Amazon, Walmart testing them out, these sort of things that are in your daily use and not just,
So my boy Elroy did not have a personal cell phone device of any sort in the Jetsons.
I don't remember them ever having a phone.
That sounds so. I mean, it just sounds so unfathomable that they had a flying car, but they didn't think of the cell phone in the cartoon. I got to go back and watch a couple episodes.
So wasn't the housekeeper always answering a landline?
Well, because
I always remember her answering like it was like a phone. It looked like a portable phone from like the 90s, right? But it had like the Jetsons like antenna on it. That's what I always remember them like picking up, and it was like wall mounted. It was like she had to pick it up and answer it. It didn't have a cord, which would have been
what was Dick Tracy using? Talking into his.
He was talking about his watch.
And then same thing, right? Star Trek.
Inspector Gadget had his shoe, right? Inspector Gadget. Oh no, it was in his hand. Inspector Gadget, his phone was in his hand.
That was what was the show that that had it in his shoe? Come on,
Get
Brad.
Smart.
You were
Get Smart.
Get Smart, yeah.
I mean, of course, I only know this because I'm a history buff when it comes to that, because I wasn't even close to being born, as a matter of fact. So
I think it has
Jonathan?
in common with cars, the energy storage, and that's a big thing. Like as soon as we are learning how to store energy better, it can solve many of our problems that we still have.
Okay, so while we were on this phone, I'm sorry, Arena, I did not mean to backtrack on you. So I'm actually looking at a video. They actually of the Jetsons, and they actually had what I would call FaceTime. So, because they had they were projecting pictures, and they were talking at the desk. So I'm going to get half credit.
But they
for
did
that.
They did that in Star Trek too. Like Star Trek, they did face to face. But like when I'm going back and watching Star Wars, like they had like the whole person teleprompt thing, right? Where like you would have like the disc, and then the person could record a message and you can talk to them, right? Like that. But it's still like in Star Wars, they still didn't have like.
But we have that now.
He couldn't just be like, I'm going to text Yoda. Hold on. Let me text Yoda. How you doing, buddy?
But the sort of the virtual image, there are places.
Yeah, like the holograph. We're doing it now. Tupac did a concert.
And that has actually increased interest in that during the pandemic, where instead of two-dimensional on Zoom that we're looking here, you are actually interacting with a three-dimensional image that can be life-size of the person or people you're engaging with from whatever distance that might be, and that certainly requires more expensive and specialized equipment, and
that's into the metaverse, isn't it?
Office, but.
I think you're onto something. I think Brett should do a VR version tour in the metaverse of the Transportation Research Center,
and then we can watch the mayhem.
I'm all about that. I was actually going to charge Kristen with like moving this idea to commercialization. This, and then also I expect to see a Cleveland F1 like T-shirt line come out in the near future.
We could work
get
on
mine
that.
signed by LeBron, please. I'd like a LeBron signed copy.
Oh, okay. That's a lot. Now we have a tall order, so
I'll get on it. I'll talk to people who might know somebody.
Maybe.
All right. So I think that's a good end to the after podcast. I want to thank you guys again. This has been a great conversation. So bullet points for the after podcast. Technology, great. Have it here in Ohio. F1 race, TBD.
I think it goes back to the Ohio kind of, we have it all.
Yeah, we do.
Stay tuned.
So we need to have an
tuned for
F1
more.
race. Yeah,
We will.
That's right.
We will. I look forward to hearing more about what you have going on down there.
Yeah.
And calculate economic impact of everything.